Hi, Seafood Boggy here once again, and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a show about mind, body, and spirit, a mixture of science and spirituality. And each week, these shows, in particular, are about a particular guest and talking about their Tao, their way, their path. So, this somebody speaker, somebody about a particular guest, and somebody wants their Tao, their way, their path. So, okay, just 1 second.
Chaos. It's chaos.
No, it's still repeating. It's not Fred.
Chaos.
Okay, so
Chaos.
right. Where's it coming from? It can't become. Ah, it stopped. Even everybody's gone silent. Okay, cool. So whoever's it is, right? So as I was saying, before I was rudely interrupted. Welcome to by me. Was it me? The way of conscious mindfulness. So this week we have a guest, a very special guest. She's been on before, but this week she's talking about reflexology and massage. But before we get to her, as always, we have some co-hosts. This week we've got an additional one. So we have the great, the mighty, the questioner, aka Chris.
Hello.
We have the mighty Mythica, the troll master, the troll smith, aka Q. And we also this week have I'm teaching him Qigong, he's teaching me corrective back therapy, massage. The great, the mighty Fred Bleach, aka the back guy. Now the show itself, again, as I said, it's about a particular person's way or Tao. And this week we have the way of Sandra Francis. So Sandra Francis will be talking about reflexology and massage this week. So, good evening, Sandra. Welcome back to the show. It's good to have you on the show again. A little bit of chaos going on this week, a little bit more than normal, actually. But so, what is the way of reflexology and massage? How did you get into it, and what is it? Oh,
she's muted.
Yeah, Sandra, hold on 1 second. Right. Okay. And okay, Sandra, what is reflexology and massage all about?
Okay, well, firstly, thank you for having me back. It's nice to see you all again. It's nice to meet you, Fred. The way of reflexology massage, for me, all about reducing stress to live a better life. Reflexology, the very basics. If you've got problems in the body anywhere, the feet, or in some cases the hands or the face, can be used as a map, and you can work on different areas. I tend to just go with the reflexology, the very basics. If you've got problems in the body anywhere, the feet, or in some cases the hands. You seem to have problems with repeating again.
Yeah, Ethan, it seems to be coming from you. It was bounced back from you, so I've turned off your mic, so you'll have to turn yourself, hopefully you can turn yourself back on when need to. Same with everybody else. Mute yourself until you're ready to speak. Okay, right. So sorry. It was back from you, so I've turned.
Right, is it safe to carry on, do you think? Yeah. Okay, so for me, it's about reducing stress. As I said, it's using the feet, or in some cases, some people use the hands or the face as a map of the body. And say, for instance, if you've got a severe pain in the arm, or if you've got a very bad back, then you can use the reflexes on the feet, use the map part, so you don't actually have to use any pressure on the part that you have pain in. It's about improved circulation. It's about making the body work for itself, really. Yeah, it's divided. Reflexology, when I trained, we were taught about the zones, the body in 10 zones. And we were made to do endless maps of the feet and learn all the different areas. Part of the exam was actually a practical, so you had to be well practiced. And some of the people I had for case studies were people who were living a very stressful life at the time. I had a lady whose daughter was terminally ill, and she'd had to give up work, and everything was changing. She didn't have much money or much of anything other than time, and even her time was taken up a great deal by hospital appointments and making sure all the medications were right for her daughter. So while I couldn't do anything for her daughter, the actual lady caring for her, I asked her if she would do me a favour by being a case study, because she would have been far too proud for me to say, oh, let me come and help you. So it was in the way I worded it. So it's helping in situations like that. It can improve all sorts of things. I remember in my training practicing on my daughter and poking the part of her foot, and I said was the digestive area, made her burp instantly, made everybody laugh. It was very funny. So that for me proved that it was going to work. It was something that was going to be effective. Massage, I did massage the year before, I believe, that I did the reflexology, and massage was where I got the first bug. Once you see people improve, for me, it's all about seeing people live happier, healthier lives. And massage helps to stimulate the body, move the circulation, remove the toxins, and it's a way of stress relieving. And when you get too much stress and too much anxiety, then you get the problems that begin. You get the physical problems. So that's the way off for me, really. That's why I did it. I did it when I was working in a pharmacy. I did it at night school because I saw so many people that suffered so much. And I'm a great believer in personal responsibility and looking after your own well-being. And I like to be a part of that for those people that are ready to take that step. I like to help people that are ready to say, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I need someone to help. I need something that can help. And for me, it's quite an effective and sort of non-threatening way to help somebody. I particularly enjoy the reflexology because it seems to me to be a bit less personal. Massage can be a bit too hands-on sometimes for me. I find it hard work to do a full body massage, but I do it, and the benefits of it, as I've said, the improved circulation, the removed toxins from the body, making sure you drink enough water to flush everything through. It's the beginning of a whole improved lifestyle, if you allow it to be. Better diet, more water, more exercise, and it adds to that. It's a starting point, and it's something that people can start with. There you are.
There you go.
Awesome. Welcome back. Great to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I've got some questions as usual.
Okay. I'll do my best to answer.
So I've actually had some reflexology on my feet, and I was very lucky to have that. And how long do the effects typically last? I mean, for me, it was like a couple of days. It was quite a long time. I had this really good sensation in my feet for quite a long time afterwards.
That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. It depends on the person. Depends what you're working with. And obviously it depends on what you've got going on in your life at the time. If you're having reflexology and then going back to a 100-mile-an-hour job, it's not going to last as long as if you're having reflexology at the beginning of the weekend and you can chill out a bit and drink the water and get rid of the toxins. So it's pretty bespoke to each individual person.
Okay. And I know that oils can be used with reflexology and with massage. I mean, do they have any particular special significance, like the smell, a particular smell helping a particular person? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here, but it has intrigued me that. It's just like, how do you choose what oil you put on, you know?
It's usually the individual's choice. One of the most common ones to use is almond oil, but obviously you have to be very careful because if you've got somebody with a nut allergy, you don't want to be putting almond oil anywhere near them, or anything else that's derived from a nut. Well, it's just being aware of that sort of thing, keeping up to date with the contraindications and all the information that goes on around that. I sometimes use lavender oil. If somebody is really, really stressed and they like the smell of lavender, obviously, because if you hate it, then it's just going to wind you up. But it's known as a relaxant, and it would depend on the person's choice as to what you use, as well as to, you know, what's going on in them, whether they've got nut allergies, whether they can't stand the smell of orange blossom, or, you know, whatever else it is you have for a choice for them. Whether they want to be invigorated or whether they want to be relaxed, it can do both.
Cool. So
it kind of gets into my understanding of aromatherapy, and aromatherapy is kind of this is a similar vein to like flower essences, where you're activating vibrations through smells and scents. You know, you have memories attached to smells. You can have at least I personally have a lot of memories attached to smells. Like you'll smell something and it'll trigger a memory, it'll trigger an emotional state. So with that in mind, I mean, there's a very well documented branch of holistic healing that is all about flower essences. I mean, about essential oils, and it's definitely its own thing, its own standalone thing, as far as its own branch of healing. I would say it has its own applications and its own techniques and its own healing modalities that are, from my experience, just as prevalent as any other form of healing modality, because when essential oils bind with air molecules, they actually change the air molecules. So that's why like essential oil diffusers work so well to help change mood. It's because they're actually binding with the air molecules and actually changing the air molecules slightly. So when you're inhaling that, it's going to have a much different effect on you. That's my 2 cents. Yeah.
The aromatherapy, I'm not actually qualified in that, but I am very careful. I do read on the oils that are available, because obviously they all do different things. They invigorate, relax, stimulate, lots of different things. So I'm always very aware of that. So one of the things I did, as we had to do a study within the reflexology, was a piece of paper on bark flower remedies, and they are very effective for that very reason, because smells do trigger memories. You get a certain smell and you see you're back when you're a kid and your mother's baking your favourite cake, or, you know, if you go somewhere and every time you go to your grandmother's house it smells of a certain air freshener, so you get that smell and you're instantly back at your grandmother's house. So they are very powerful, very effective, but they tend to be, in terms of oil, it just tends to be something, mostly almond oil, that I would use for someone as a sort of deep massage, and perhaps if they've got dry skin it would help with that, but only obviously provided they're happy with it. They've got no problem with almond oil, and they definitely haven't got a nut allergy.
Well, there's just a little bit of history for some people for reflexology. Reflexology itself actually originates from the Chinese. Well, I always say funny enough. And what the Chinese did, it was actually part of the Taoist sect, or the part of the acupuncture and acupressure. And acupuncture and acupressure works on the meridians, and it's the philosophy of the part represents the whole. So in essence, quantum physics, they're finding, or what some scientists found, they actually cut a hole in the leaf. They cut a hole in the leaf and fired a hologram through the leaf, or projected, and they actually found the leaf through this laser system they use. They actually got a hologram of the whole tree, and this is what the science said. And so in essence is that in every, and when you look within the DNA or DNA code from the 64 code, you will find in essence all the information to make a tree, to make a frog, to make pretty much everything. So within the small part of one thing, you'll find everything. So that's, in essence, that's the science sort of, or a sort of ripple of the science behind it. And with reflexology, it started off originally with China with chopsticks. They actually used chopsticks on people's feet to get the actual points. So that's how So that's how it originally. Because my teacher was one of the people whose family traditionally would do that. There was two main, on especially children's feet, either children's feet or children's ears. They would use either chopsticks or the well, originally it wasn't needles, it was actually slivers of bamboo, and on children they would either do it on the ears, or on the reflexology, because the ear, when they're your child, the ear is closest to the fetus, so it's very similar to it's nearest to the fetus being a child, and the ear itself actually represents. I'll show the ear. So the lump of the ear here is the head. This is the back, and that's like your feet curling up here. So actually, the ear represents the whole body. So when it's a child, it's closest to the fetus. So it works. Acupuncture in the ear works best on a child for the whole body, and then as you get older it represents more and more of the kidneys. The ears represent the kidneys. So they would either use the ears or the feet, because the feet, where there's this thing of, or funny enough, we say the soul of the foot is the connection to the body. And so the sole of the foot would be a representation of the whole body. So originally, as I said, it was chopsticks, and then because I actually learned reflexology first through my teacher, and as my teacher would normally do, he'd say, "Now go and find somebody else." And I actually learned from a lady called Mary Martin. Was her reflexology name, her stage name of sorts, or her healing name, and she was one of the main practitioners to start in England teaching. I think she started the British Reflexology Society, one of the main societies. She was one of the main people to really start it up, and so I learned from her as well. I learned the Eastern, the Orient, and then I learned the more Western way, or the more a different version of sort of reflexology. And I found with reflexology and hand reflexology is that the foot reflexology is very acute, very powerful. So really, you can only do it once a week, once or twice a week at a push. But normally on the foot, because it is quite strong and quite powerful. But with the hand reflexology, with the hand reflexology, you can actually teach people to do it. And in China, part of the barefoot doctor system, which the
Okay, you still there?
Froggy's gone for a second. All right, I'm going to for a second. This is, I don't know if you can see this.
This is the one.
Okay.
There we go.
This
So-
is the drawing of the human.
Oh, that's the ear.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
this is the human ear with the picture. It's been around for a long time. This is actually from a great book called Holographic Universe that explains holographic theory in its entirety. Highly recommend it. Michael Talbot is his name.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great book.
It is
So-
indeed.
You're saying, Doggy?
Yeah, no, it's just agreeing. Yeah, it's good. But so, it's just the way I was taught, even like with the reflexology, with all of it, that it was something you could teach your patients to. So if they got head problems or neck problems or anything, in essence, they could take that home and do it. So it bring a string to them. And that was the whole point, is to add all these things together. Fred, have you anything to add? Although Fred's just turned into a picture, so I don't know if that means Fred's. Fred, are you there?
Right. Yes, it's suddenly. I'm not a picture. I'm here. Yes.
There you are.
Well, my experience with reflexology is actually very good. One of my assistants, and a very good friend of mine for many years now, she trained as a reflexologist, and she used me as a model. And yeah, I on one occasion she made me feel so hyper I could run a mile. On another occasion, she put me to sleep very effectively.
Oh yeah, it's
Yes,
powerful. It's powerful.
Aromatherapy as well. Aromatherapy just isn't just a matter of the aroma.
No.
You've also with aromatherapy, you've also got the absorption through the skin as well as the aroma side of it. And again, I was a model for her when she qualified as an aromatherapist. And again, yeah, very, very strong effect, very good healing effects.
Okay.
Indeed. Awesome. Questioner, have you any questions? Oh, Christian.
Have I lost? Oh, there you go. I've lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, you're still there, Fred. Have you got anything else to add? Not for now. Okay, cool. Questioner, have you a question?
Yes, I do.
No, that's pretty much it. So
Okay, thank you.
A little bit of a delay there.
Yeah.
Okay. So with massage, I mean, how long did that take to qualify for that? I mean, is that a year or?
I'm just trying to. Yes, I did an intense course over a year, and it was one night a week plus several weekends where we would have to go to college and actually do theory, anatomy, physiology, and actually the practice. The practice was great because when I was training, because you work on each other, certain weeks was absolutely brilliant. Other weeks was hard work. Depends whether you were being worked on or doing the working on. But it was about a year, and I had a very good teacher, Anthony. His name was, I can't remember his surname, but he was very patient, and he used to have, he said, a very high-powered job, very, very fast, lots to do, lots to learn, lots to take on. And he said he woke up one morning and had a realization that he didn't want to do that anymore. He wanted to do something else. And his daughter had recently qualified as a doctor, and she said, why don't you do some of the alternative stuff, Dad? Why don't you give that a go and have a massage? And he went and had one and decided that's what he was going to do. And because he was so passionate about what he'd learned, then he was very good at passing on that knowledge via the teaching. So we would sometimes, like, one of us would be an example and he would show the whole class, and then we would all practice. So it was very, very hands-on. There was lots of new terms to learn, lots of things. But the overwhelming effect for me, one of the ladies in our class, she had a a massage, and I think they're working on the abdominal part, and she had a complete breakdown, lots of tears, lots of things, and it was an emotional block. So the emotional blocks can be shifted by the physical, which we all know as being holistic and mind, body, spirit, that can happen. But when you actually see that happen, it's quite effective, especially in a training room. She was actually a nurse, this lady, and it was all about, she'd lost a little girl when she was pregnant. The baby had died, and she'd never released that. She'd never spoken about it. She'd never talked about it. But having this abdominal massage had triggered something, and she completely broke down and told everyone. And it was quite an evening to see. So, and again, that just increased my passion, because if you can release all that stuff, your health is going to be better.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Passion is a big thing for a teacher, especially if you're teaching others. If you're not passionate about it yourself, you're always going to struggle to be able to share that information along. There's one thing. I'm sure Fred will agree with this. There's one thing that everybody always says about me. I'm very passionate about the things I do. I very much share. I'll put a lot of enthusiasm in what I do. Not just the explaining, but with the healing itself. Is because for me, with all the Taoist approach, the Taoist path, and so the Taoist approach is everything you learn. And this is the samurai and the Shaolin way as well. Is everything you learn enhances everything else you do as well. So when learning the reflexology gave me another set of skills. Learning the acupressure was the same. Learning shiatsu is the same. And they all have their different advantages. It's a little bit like, in martial arts, is that learning different moves from different things gives you the advantage. It's the same in the healing, is that all these different techniques give you those extra skills. And that's the one thing. I mean, the one thing for me to teach other people is that I have seen with a lot of massage practitioners, and this is for any massage practitioners out there, is that I know a lot of massage practitioners that do burn out. They say they give a lot and they find themselves burn out. One thing Fred knows is that Fred actually has done my own back. He's done my back right at the beginning before we had clients to do together, and then I would do 3 patients, and then he checked my back afterwards, and my back was actually more relaxed after actually doing 3 treatments on people than it was beforehand. And that was the Qigongs I do, because I do the Qi or Qigong, whichever picture people do them, moves into and it's interesting that the Fred's teacher was his father, and we've had these interesting conversations where Fred's father actually appeared to know some Taoist or Shaolin techniques and skills, because the certain skills that Fred teaches, that to do certain back moves, are very Shaolin or very Taoist in nature because of the corrective posture. And it's the whole thing of you as the healer, you're as important as the people you heal, because you need to keep yourself balanced and harmonious, and you need to make sure that you're not picking up, or you're not picking up, but you're not absorbing cha, which in Chinese means negative energy. If you're absorbing this energy yourself, it's good to be able to be aware of it, or to be able to pick up people's stuff. But if you're picking it up yourself and absorbing it yourself, then you're going to end up getting ill yourself. And
absolutely
the whole thing for me is whole Taoist skills. So one of the fun things or interesting things for me, every time I massage somebody, because I know what the certain muscles in the body, Chinese holistically, Taoistically, certain muscles mean certain things. So the shoulders, those muscles, the metaphor for those muscles mean like the world is on your shoulders. So when you've got a lot of tension in the shoulders, it's very much that you're like Atlas, the world is on your shoulders, you're under a lot of pressure. When the neck muscles are very, very tense, then that can indicate that what you're trying to achieve, all the ideas you've got and what you can physically do, there's a blockage between the two, because the neck acts as a bridge between your mental awareness and your spiritual, what you're trying to create, manifest, and your body, what you're trying to physically do. So all these muscles mean different things. So when I do massage, the body is literally talking to me, and people sort of always look at it funny. What do you mean? Oh, you mean psychically? And say no, I mean metaphorically, because I've learned what the muscles mean, and that's the point. Is that if you've got somebody who's passionate about it, and got somebody who understands it, but also understands it to the point where they not just, for me, a good healer is not just healing you. Is actually, Fred is very good at that. Fred's somebody I very much recommend. He'll is the back therapy side. He very much will teach you like the whole thing about beds and how to make your beds work for you. Because if you're waking up uncomfortable, there's something wrong. But that was maybe for another show, or I'm sure Fred can talk about that himself. But the whole point of holistic healers teach you and help you, and they're always learning themselves. But anyway, I'm rambling. So, Sandra, have you got anything to add?
Yes, I have one of my pictures from when I studied my little, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah, keep still.
One of the maps, which is similar to what you've been talking about there. But there's also a part that we did, a section when we were training, in the ITEC training, which was similar to what you're saying in terms of reading the feet. So the muscle tone will tell you how well somebody looks after their body, for example, how flexible they are, that sort of thing. The colour, if you've got pinkish colour, it's good circulation. If you've got a pale or a blue colour, then it can represent that they've got vascular problems. Purple might be a congestion in that reflex area. So that was as fascinating. Well, it's all part of the whole, isn't it? But again, the temperature of the feet, when you're looking at reading the feet, when you're looking at learning about the person you're working with, the temperature, if they're warm, they've got good circulation. Perhaps if the foot's a bit clammy, they might have poor waste elimination. Sweaty feet can be a hormonal imbalance, can be a kidney problem, dry or flaky feet, skin condition or neglect. You're looking at all this. So you're looking at the person as a whole, but just using the foot.
I'm never taking my socks off again in public.
My response is just, yuck, Chris.
That was one of the... That was one of the most fascinating things for me.
Up one button.
No, we can hear you, Fred. And he's gone. No, sorry, Sandra, you were saying.
I was just saying that was one of the most fascinating parts for me, was to actually read the foot that you're working on and get an idea of the whole person, what's going on with them, which, like you're saying, the Taoist way. Well,
the Tao it's just a word. It's a word I like, and I use it a lot, but it just means the way, the balance. It's interesting, we say like complementary or alternative therapies. These therapies are holistic, and the whole point of holistic therapy, and well, it's not just the whole person, it's the whole point that, and I know very much with reflexology, I know with therapy, I know very much with Fred's work, is you're not just that person, as you're helping them, as you like with the whole shiatsu, shundao, acupressure, all the stuff I do. While helping that person, you're reading as well. So it's as much a diagnostic tool as it is a healing tool, rather than like a straight massage where somebody just sort of like, just keeps moving their hands around that person or squeezing stuff and just hopes something happens. The whole point of the whole point of these arts is that you're literally, the body is literally telling you, and that's the whole the quantum physics, the whole psychology, NLP, is that the body talks all the time. Everything is your sifu. Everything is talking. All you got to do is listen. And the whole point with massage is that if you know what it's saying, if you know how to speak muscle, which one of my old what my Sifu Po was very much the healer side, and he would say, you must learn to speak muscle, and speak tendon and speak bone. And what he meant is that the way they feel, the way they react when you touch them, they're giving off it, the temperature, not just the skin, but the actual, you can have this temperature of the skin, and you can have temperature of a muscle. So they're more hard, but then when you push in a little bit deeper, you can feel where, is the hardness just on the surface of the muscle? Does it go all the way through? Is it resonating all the way through the tendon? On the vertebrae at the back, is one particular muscle set on the vertebrae more tense than the others? All this means information. And for a lot of people, it's like, too much. But if you're into this, if you're really a healer, if you want to serve and help others, then all this is important stuff. All this will help. All this is information to absorb. But hey, what do I know? Has somebody got a question? Or
I've got something to throw in there. That's something, reflexology also is prevalent in people who do firewalking. I have a friend who uses firewalking as modality. He has for several decades now. And what you'll find with him, and I've experienced this myself, is so part of the firewalk is you bring up an energy, an emotion that you have clogged, or a memory that you have clogged, some trauma that you need to heal. And then the general concept is that the fire, you are feeding that to the fire as you're walking on the fire, and the fire is consuming that and burning it away. And that manifests by walking through the fire. So whatever problem areas you have in your body, for me, when I did my last firewalk, I was having problems with having an open heart. So the spot on my foot in reflexology that relates to the heart was the only spot on my foot that got a blister. And that's something that you can see manifest in other forms as well. In firewalking, is if you have wherever you're having a problem with your body, in reflexology, when you walk on fire or something like that happens, in my experience, and his experience as well, you're more likely to see damage be manifested there. I also believe that you can see this with your hands, because your hands are your it's labor palace, right, Boggy? Isn't that what Laogong translates to?
Yeah.
Which is the acupoint which is the point in the middle of your hand here. So I'll see for myself, if I'm having a bad day or something like that, or I'm not enjoying the work that I'm doing, I'm more likely to injure my hand. And even with that, and there's subcategories of what finger you're injuring, because the fingers relate to different parts of the body and different organs. I don't exactly remember them all. But so a lot of times I'll notice, like, I will continually injure the same finger because of an emotional problem that I'm going through. And then I'll start another emotional problem and I'll move on to injuring a different finger.
Yeah, it works.
And then usually it's the left hand that gets it, because the sharp thing's in the right hand. And if you're left-handed, it's the other way around.
Sounds fascinating.
Well, there is actually fun in Taoism, but also in macrobiotics, which is basically Japanese Taoism. It's the Japanese version of it. And they have a big thing especially in macrobiotics, have a big thing. If you stop your toe, they'll say, say thank you, because that's your body telling you there's an issue in that organ. You know, is because they're all in that meridian. You know, and depending on what you know, and this actual thing. Well, the whole metaphor of the barefoot doctor was a metaphor about somebody, a bit like the naked chef. For those in England who know of the naked chef, it's a metaphor for meaning somebody who's open and honest, and you know, uses everything they have. But also there is the whole Taoist and Buddhist thing of being barefoot, because that's natural reflexology. Is learning actually to your skin hardens up a little bit because of like stones and whatnot, but you're naturally getting massaged by the earth. So it is actually called also earthing, which is another subject for another time as well.
Or grounding.
Yeah. Grounding, and the whole point is that you're actually massaging the feet. And there was a company when I was spending a lot of time in my namesake. There's a company down there that's created a shoe, and I'm sure it's called Barefoot Shoes. It might not be, but and it's got Teflon. There's a thin layer of Teflon that actually, you know, so stops you from cutting your foot. But apart from that, it's almost like being barefooted. And these shoes, so it's very, very thin layers that protect you feel the ground. You actually feel the ground. So it's actually about the closest you can get to barefooted without actually chances of cutting yourself on broken glass or something. And the whole principle is that the problem with heavy, thick soles, they actually disconnect you from the earth, but also that when you're touching the ground, the different bits of the ground will actually massage different parts of the foot. So you're naturally giving yourself reflexology. That was the whole principle originally of being barefooted, was that you were connected to the earth, but you were also being massaged by the earth, and massaging in essence your whole body.
And it also it's a big one for being barefoot is a big one for helping to reduce the electromagnetic smog that we're subjected to, because your body has 3 biorhythms, and technology overrides those biorhythms a lot because it's functioning on a higher frequency. So it messes with your brain waves, your heart waves, and your breathing. Those are your 3 biorhythms. So ideally, your 3 biorhythms will be in tune with each other. But the more time we spend around cell phones and computers and other forms of technology, the more electromagnetic smog we pick up. So that's why everyone loves taking showers so much, because it's becoming more and more needed, because the water will help clean your energy field for the electromagnetic smog. Also, not wearing shoes and laying on the ground will as well. And just as a general note, there are things that you can do. There's stones that help with that sort of thing. I have one taped to the back of my phone. And there's also a company, I think they're called Tesla, not the car company, but they make electromagnetic smog reduction devices, and they're all like cool pyramids with copper wire and spirals and other things that are all very interesting.
Orgon is another. It's the Orgonite has been. Well, actually, that's another show that we could do about.
All right, too.
The Orgon is. There was I can't remember the guy. I'll have to study it again. There's I think his name might actually be Orgon, but there was a guy that originally, this scientist, that actually found that create with it's not latex, but it's like a plastic silicone, and putting metal magnets and crystals into this plastic silicone, created this actually created a way of seeing the lines. Not that's it. Anybody else know what I'm referring to?
I think it's Orgonite, right?
Orgonite, yeah. But it works on the negative ions. That's what I was trying to think of. The ions in the air. And it clears the ions.
And there's a water. Oh gosh, what was his name? The guy that studied water. He died. It was either earlier this year or late last year. But he did a big study on water and patterning in water, and if you talk to it, the difference that it would make whether you were negative or whether you were positive, and he actually proved it. I can't remember what his name was.
Japanese guy,
totally.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I've seen that research.
I can't remember his name. I know his name, but it won't come to mind. But it's along the lines that you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's how flower essences work too. Because when you make a flower essence, you're taking the vibrational frequency out of the flower and putting it into the water, and then you can use that as a therapy.
Yeah.
And that's why, and that holds true for everything. Like, I generally considered a crackpot by my friends, but like my jars of apple cider vinegar have hearts on them and love written on them and runes for empowerment and all that sort of stuff. Every time I get a new jar, I grab my Sharpie and go at it. And my food too, a lot of my food, I'll write things on the container because that will bring in that vibrational frequency. So all my jars of apple cider vinegar look all strange and mystic and doodled on, but yeah, it's definitely something to consider. It's one of those things that I think a lot of people think about on a certain level, but there's kind of this, like, something I've noticed a lot in spirituality is there's a lot of theories that we all understand, but there's not a lot of carryover. This goes for myself included, of theories that I understand, but I don't necessarily enact them in my daily life. So that's one of the things that I recommend everyone try. Just, if you have a jar of any kind of liquid that has water as part of it, write love on it, put a heart on it, put some positive symbol on it for you, because that will make a difference. It takes 30 seconds. It's simple. It's fun. If you have kids, you can sit down with your kids and doodle on all of your jars with your kids with markers, and it's going to help change your reality. It'll help change the world. And you get to doodle on stuff. I mean, come on.
Get to release my inner child.
To the Reiki symbols, I always draw the power symbol underneath a jar of water, the Reiki power symbol, for that reason, because it will energize the water. And I found it fascinating, even if you just draw it on the jug and you don't actually physically draw it, and you would have two jugs on the table, 99% of the time people will go for the one that's energized.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that thing.
It's fascinating to watch.
Totally. People are subconsciously aware of these things. That's why I feel like you see things like there's clockwise and counterclockwise. When, tornadoes go clockwise, toilet bowls go clockwise, everything goes clockwise, because we're subconsciously aware of that. Mm-hmm. So it has a massive influence on us. It's the same with machines. We are living machines. So we can't really come up with an idea on our own, but we can come up with the idea of a machine because machines already exist in consciousness. Because we are machines. We just can't match the level of sophistication of the machine that Spirit has created. So, and then, you see that with the internet is another good example for me of that, of the collective unconscious, the Akashic records. We are cut off from that. We subconsciously know that we need it and that we want it, and we're cut off from it. So we create something. Our conscious mind creates the best thing it can to replace it. So we have the internet. Instead of being able to draw the information psychically, we type it in the keyboard and it comes up for us. So, life, all we can do is mirror back what Spirit has already done, in my opinion. We're just trying to reconnect to it, and a lot of times we think we're clever because we've come up with something, but Spirit's already done it a lot better.
Yeah, all the wisdom in the world is ancient. We just think we're discovering it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it connects all of these things. Definitely.
It is sort of, going on about like the symbols. The whole point of the understanding I have from my teachers, the symbols, is that all symbols, everything is chi. Chi is vibration. It's vibration, quantum physics is vibration tone, a frequency. And the symbols, the symbol that you draw is a frequency. Just like the Tai Chi symbol, it's actually a frequency that is being created. And so when you say the tone, you're saying a frequency, but the picture is the same thing. It's a visual representation of it. So all of these are literally energy frequencies that can be activated. So in essence, what Shun or Po would both say is the whole point where you say it, but doing the Reiki symbol on the water is under the table, so you can't even see it. It's naturally activating that frequency there, radiating up. The interesting thing in because both my teaching, their mother was Japanese, their father was Chinese, and so they had a connection with Usawi or Usi, as people know, Master Usi. He's sensei, because master being sensei in Japan is Sensei Usawi from Reiki, and
Boggy, you've looked up.
We've lost him.
Boggy.
And they were part of it. Sorry?
Boggy, can you just go back to the beginning of the Usi sequence, because you locked up.
Okay, right. So the interesting thing with, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. The interesting thing with Usi or Sensei Usawi, as I know it more, is that he was, apart from being part of the Gakkai, which is like the Japanese Mason, originally with the symbols, the symbol training tools, they were like training wheels, and the whole point he originally taught was that if you didn't understand the tone and the frequency, the energy. So obviously the tone, when we say tone, we think of sound. But when they say tone, they actually mean the energy behind the sound. So it's not just so you say like om. You say om, but you say it enough, you say it and take a breath and feel the silence. So that would be the yin. And then when you say the sound, that's the yang, that's the noise. So you say it, then breathe in, have a little bit of silence. Say it, breathe in, have a little bit of silence. And in silence, there should be a feeling going on. And that feeling is the tone of that energy. So the ultimate aim with all of this is like I say, is even with the massage, is that eventually you feel the frequency, the tone of those particular of that symbol. That symbol will happen. Go again. Am I back?
Yeah,
You're back.
Yeah, I'm overcharging it again. The symbol has a frequency. And this is the interesting thing, or what I learnt with it, is to actually try to find the frequency, the tone, the underlying energy within that symbol. Because eventually, you don't need the symbols. You don't even need to write the symbol. The symbol in the traditional system, the symbol was just a beginning. It was just the first few steps. It was the training tool. It's what you started with. Yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some between. There's a guy in America named Lloyd Meir. He's not super well known.
Yeah.
And he works on the. Have you guys heard of Lloyd Meir at all? Anybody?
I have.
You have? Okay. So I know of Lloyd Meir from a friend of mine who has used his methodology for years. And his basic methodology is, because of vibration, every vibration has a number that relates to it. So by saying that number, you can take on that vibration. So he uses dowsing rods, and we'll go through your body and find everything that you're missing, whether that's messed up chromosomes, deficiencies, trauma that's trapped in your body, whatever the case may be. And then he will prescribe number therapy to bring in, and then you sit and you say that the list of numbers X many times, depending on whatever you're trying to heal and whatever you're trying to work through. So there's another form of taking on vibration, Lloyd Meir. And I actually just made a hammer, I shipped it out already, with some of Lloyd Meir's numbers in it, and also with some programmed crystals and some Norse runes in it for that exact reason, to help with strengthening and healing.
And plug my hoodies, my kung fu style hoodies.
Yes.
The great mighty Ethan is making. They're going to have so much stuff. They're going to be awesome. But they're going to have symbols and the meridians in them, and the dantians and the chakras, and it's going to have the monkey mind and Buddha thought. And yes, I'll be probably doing raw cheese all about my hoodie when it comes, because this means this and this means this. Anyway, right, Fred, have you got any questions or information?
No, I've got
Anybody
a
here,
couple of
Fred?
comments as it happens.
Yep.
With respect to what Ethan was saying earlier about pollution by frequencies, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What were you saying earlier about frequencies? You're quite right there, Ethan. We actually live in a very anti-magnetic environment. We within the general magnetic, I myself have got quite a great deal of experience in electromagnetic therapy. I used to produce electromagnetic equipment and ionizers for these reasons. Now, as it stands, there's only really one major frequency, which is a range of frequencies within the magnetic range that are actually non-conducive to cellular existence. And unfortunately, this is 50 to 60 hertz.
The one we're using.
Unfortunately, of course, is exactly where we've got our main supplies. This is, don't worry, I'm probably a bit older than most of you. So the thing is, when I was at school, used to use tapes for language labs, you know, reel-to-reel tape recorders. And you had this thing called a bulk eraser. And you put the tape on top of it, press the button, and it'd buzz, and it'd wipe out the magnetic of the tape. Now, that's basically just using an AC field to do this. The same now, obviously, atoms and electrons are all held in together by electromagnetic and electrostatic forces, which means also cells are also held together by electromagnetic and electrostatic forces. And by inducing forces such as I say, electricity within a 50, 60 hertz range, this is non-conducive to cellular regeneration. Generative frequencies are ranged between the 4 and 10 hertz frequencies into 14, but generally with magnetic field therapy, 4, 10, 14 are the most effective we use with healing.
Cool.
Indeed.
Interesting.
Yeah. And hopefully one day we'll get those machines back up and running again, because that'd be a good thing to do. So, yeah, cool. So, questioner, you've been quiet for a while.
Oh, you mean I'm not going to get away with asking no questions until the end of the show?
You are?
In your dreams.
I'm very conscious that we sort of jumped all the way straight off deep onto some tangents. We didn't really go into what reflexology is for someone who's not really heard of reflexology before.
Well, no, this is...
So maybe you could give us a bit about how reflexology works, and what the approach is, and how it helps to cleanse the toxins out of the body. Just, you know, be brief.
Be brief. Okay. Hang on. Let me see. I've got myself some notes here. Let me. Trouble is, I've written so many notes, I've lost the ones that, like, you know, the basic little light ones. It's, oh yeah, I'll read that. It's a massage, basically. It's of the feet. It works by stimulating and relaxing the body. There we go. So when we're stressed, the body's defences break down, and we become more susceptible to illness and disease and things like that. We feel worse, that everything's much bigger than it actually is. So reflexology reduces that stress. and it's done by stimulating a deep tissue relaxation, usually in the feet, but as we've mentioned earlier, obviously also in the hands, and some people use it in the face, the ears. I've never done it in the ears myself. I stick with the feet, and maybe for somebody that suffers migraine, I might send them home rubbing the end of their thumb, because there's a reflex there for your head. So rather than keep putting your hands in your head in your hands, you've got something that you can take away and do yourself. Okay, so while it's stimulated while it's relaxing the deep tissues, it's allowing the body to heal itself. It's helping the body to do what it needs to do internally. Kickstart the healing, if you like. It releases the endorphins that make you feel good. Can help with all sorts of things. It helps with pain relief, it helps to balance hormones, definitely improves the circulation because of the massage part of it, and it can help treat depression and low self-esteem, and it boosts well-being. So some of the things, it stimulates the nerves in the feet really, and it encourages them to open up and clear all the pathways within yourself.
So I do have a question about that, actually. I can just jump in for a second, if I may.
Yeah.
So is that based around, say, meridians, or so as my understanding goes, and I may be completely wrong here, but there are particular points on the foot that then somehow connect up to up there somewhere, to other parts of the body, and how does that work?
Yeah, it's basically the foot is used as a map of the body. There's different parts of the foot that relate to different areas in the body. So like the map that Ethan showed us earlier and the one that I showed us, I don't know if I've got another one here, I'll have a look in a minute, but it's basically, yeah, the foot is used as a map of the body. And there is something called the transverse zones, which I believe was discovered by a lady called Eunice Ingham and a gentleman she was working with. But they found that if you divided the body into 10 lines, 10 transverse zones, if you stimulated a part of the foot in one of those zones, that everything else in that zone within the rest of the body would be numb. So, you could do actual medical work on there. So they thought, there must be something in this, and that's really the beginning of reflexology, or as we know it in the modern times. Because if you go back to the history of it, I think the first time they found pictures of it was in one of the Egyptian tombs somewhere in the pictures on the wall. It goes back a very long way. People have been working on the feet. But some of the improvements, some of the things that it can help with, or the conditions.
Very Egyptians.
Sorry?
That was Fred. Yeah, we can hear you, Fred.
Okay, so some of the things, yeah. Have you got something to ask, Fred?
Yeah.
Go on then.
No, just to add also to that, although my knowledge of meridians is extremely basic, there is also an interconnection with the foot on specific nerve runs as well. By directly affecting various nerve runs, not only can you affect the main muscle, but every vein and artery, every capillary in your body is covered with a substance called white muscle. Now, this is used, amongst other things, to regulate your blood supply. So when you get hot, the white muscle expands and allows more blood supply to the skin. When you get cold, the white muscle shuts down and restricts blood supply, so you preserve body heat. And those interconnections, I know. There are direct nerve runs that run through the feet, that run directly to main nerve runs on the body.
Yeah.
Affect blood supply and vascular system in that manner.
Yeah, so that's like the transverse zones, which are kind of like, where are we? The 10 different, these all divide the 10 sections in the body, 10 different lines running through the body. was Eunice Ingham and Dr. William Fitzgerald. I see, I did write him down in my notes. Known as the founder of the modern technology, that noticed, you know, if you pressed on one of these transverse zones, another part of the body would be anaesthetized. So, and he started to do minor surgery using the transverse zones as a form of anaesthetist. And then he discovered that every part of the body could be, you know, they could do that on every part of the body using these zones. So him and the lady Eunice Ingham continued to work on it, and they developed reflexology and the foot charts that we know today, where they've got the spine down the side and the inside of the foot, and I think the sinuses on the top of the toes, and there's certain parts that are the pancreas and the kidneys, and by using reflexology or the massage of the foot, you can help keep those parts of the body healthy. So that's yeah.
I had this awesome question, and it's just like flown away like a bird from my head. It's just gone. So I won't ask that question because I have no idea what it is.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So
ask that question. Go for it.
I'll try and catch it and bring it back.
Okay.
When you remember, yeah.
It's flown through the cage already.
When you add the reading the feet into the actual massage and reflexes of the feet, then you get a whole sense of the whole person. So you might be looking at, you know, a corn somewhere on the foot, depending where it is, will tell you if there's a problem possibly in that area. So if you've got a corn or a callus on the top or between the toes, it could be it's an indication of poor posture, or somebody's got shoes that don't fit them properly. You know, it depends what you're dealing with.
And then you can also go into for a practitioner, all feeling your own feet, and or what the reflexology term for it's crystalline deposits. And they actually operated on people that had those afterwards, when they obviously were dead, and did autopsies, and they couldn't actually find anything. But the crystalline deposits normally indicate scarring, past injuries and scars, because Mary Martin was very good at going, oh, this crystalline, have you got an old injury about 6 or 7 years old? And very good what Fred does. He goes, you've had this for da-da-da-da-da. And because he's reading, because of the depth, how much it feels, how long it feels like it's been there, and because he's done many people, he knows. So he, with Fred with backs, Fred can tell you himself, but with the backs, he'll know, not only he'll know you've got a whiplash injury, he can actually say roughly how many years you've had it. And that was one of the things with these crystalline deposits, was the same thing. There's normally old scars or old injuries that haven't quite healed yet, so there's still some residue in the muscles or tendons that will turn up in the feet as crystalline. Please continue.
Okay.
Okay, Sandra, continue.
Oh, you can ask me questions. You got questions? Have you remembered your awesome question yet, Chris?
No. Yeah. I bet you what will happen is that question will come back to me 5 minutes after the show has finished, because that's how that works.
Okay.
Normally.
Okay.
Anyway,
anybody else?
I was thinking about the face, and like reflexology on the face. Sorry. Do you want to say something, Fred?
You got a question? No. I think that was Shannon.
No, I ain't got a question actually. No. But you'll have to excuse me a moment. I don't know if you can see my dog in the distance here. I'm going to have to let my dog out. This is Shadow, my dog, who is moaning that he wants to go. So I won't be long. I will be back.
Okay, see you in a bit, Fred.
Okay, I got a question. I got one. So how has learning reflexology influenced your day-to-day life? Like when I learn a new modality, I try and at least apply it to some facets of my life, and sometimes it does it on its own. So I'm wondering if or what it has learning this has done for you in your daily life. Like, are you more aware of yeah, like if you step on a rock, are you more aware of like, I stepped on a rock in this one place, so this could potentially mean this, or anything like that? I'm curious to know.
Not as I'm quite aware of that anyway, but more so things that I know that if I'm having a tough time or something is really on my mind, rather than bottle it all up, keep it all inside, I will go out and take my shoes and socks off and stand on the grass in the garden. You also get, the feet. It's a bit like the sole of the feet. It shouldn't be underestimated, the power of just doing the basic things in nature. And that's kind of come from the reflexology, because my focus is more about the connection to everything and how it can affect it. But I am aware if I've got something that's come up, particularly if I've got hard skin, right, what does that signify then? What am I doing? What am I needing to work through? So it does have an effect on a personal level, but it's not something that I'm consciously aware of all the time. It's only when these things come up and I think, what can I do to help myself? I know, I'll go and I'll stand in the garden with no shoes and socks on, stand on the grass, or go and put my hands on something, go and do a bit of tree hugging. People also think I'm nuts, but I don't care, because I understand how this life, this universal stuff works. And I want to be more positive. And I want to be, if I'm in a good place, then the people around me are in a good place. And the people around me are mostly the people that I care about. And I care about a lot of people. So particularly the people that I work with and work, I would say work with and work for. I wouldn't say work on, because they're working on themselves. I'm just helping them along that journey. It's definitely raised my awareness, and it's definitely moved me along into all sorts of other things. It's made me more aware of how the body holds on to things and how it's much better for me and for other people if I can try and let them go sometimes.
I was listening to a conversation, and I can't remember any of the names of the people involved, but they were talking about looking at research into PTSD, where the body was storing the emotions of the conflict, but actually in the muscles or the body itself.
It's in the nervous system. Actually, it stores it in the nervous system. I've studied this. I was a therapist for a while, and we had some really good conversations about PTSD. So, is it okay if I blather for a second? You want me to blather?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So, my understanding of PTSD is taught to me by someone who treats people with PTSD, and is very efficient in her job. Is it basically works like this? So, your nervous system handles electricity. So, you can think of it as a circuit. So when an extreme emotion comes along, like an extremely traumatizing event, so it can form PTSD. So PTSD can be formed. I know a guy who's got PTSD from seeing one of his friends as a young boy being physically abused by the parental figure. So let's go with the example. So because of this, he has PTSD. So when too much electricity starts going through his nervous system effectively shorts out, because there's a break in your nervous system. It's not functioning properly anymore. It's gone a weak point from having so much stress that it kind of fractured. So what ends up happening is when you send too much current through it, the fracture happens again. It's like having a leaky pipe. The more water pressure you send through there, the more the water is going to come out where you don't want it to. So that is storing the trauma of the experience in your nervous system. So every time your nervous system gets really ramped up, the water pressure gets really high, it starts spraying out everywhere, and then you go into one of your 3 basic human responses, which is fight, flight, or flee. Freeze. And fight, flight, freeze. Or freeze. That's the other one, yes. Freeze. And a lot of times it's freeze. It's freeze because in nature you find, like, if a lot of times if a baby gazelle is being hunted by a lion, if it tries to run or it tries to fight, it's not going to get anywhere. But if it freezes, it might not be seen. So that's one of the common manifestations you see of it. And as a result, people's nervous systems are not physically capable of handling the stress. So you have to undo that stress. You have to undo that damage. So there are multiple ways of handling that. One of the most efficient ways, to my understanding, is called, I'll remember it later. But how it basically works is your brain stores memories by flipping back and forth between the two halves of your brain. So what you have to do is you have to engage the two sides of your brain. EMDR therapy, it's called EMDR therapy. And they have these cool things called TheraTappers that you hold onto, and it vibrates one hand and then the other hand. And what that's doing is it's activating one hemisphere of your brain and then the other hemisphere of your brain without cognizant thought. That's why you wonder why you feel better after you go for a walk, because you're using one side of your brain and the other side of your brain. Spirit is not stupid. Spirit built this into us. The problem is we don't walk anywhere anymore. So if you spend all day walking, you're spending all day in therapy on a certain level. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to mend the nervous system. And it also, I'm not 100%, I haven't seen research on this, but I find it very, very likely, because your nervous system is actually coated in saturated fat. That's why so many people get so irritable when they're on a low-fat diet, is because their body is actually starving for fat. So you have a society that is all against saturated fat and animal fats. So you're stripping your nerves, and then on top of that, you have these traumatic experiences that make it makes it even harder for your nervous system to handle these things. And you see that a lot in some forms of autism, like Asperger's, for instance. Their ability to handle stress is significantly reduced compared to most people's, because their nervous system just shorts out. It's just something along the lines of a PTSD experience. So does that kind of make sense, Chris?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. But I was going to take it one step further and ask if using massage, you could actually help get some of that tension or leaky pipe fixed, as Ethan would put it.
I would say absolutely. Ultimately, from my understanding, you need to release the trauma at its base. So you see a lot of there's a name for it. It's a certain form of therapy, but I can't remember what it is. But it's basically shaking therapy. That's why shaking qigongs are so efficient, and also like African shaman do shaking. Because what happens is you have that trauma. Like if you there's a guy, I forgot his name. We'll probably remember it later. He did a bunch of research, and he did research with mice where he would cut their whiskers off, which to a mouse, losing one of its whiskers is a traumatic experience. So he performed experiments where he would hold some of the mice and not allow them to shake. Because if you look in nature, every time an animal goes through a traumatic experience, whether that's a gazelle just barely surviving being eaten by a lion, or two ducks fighting in nature. Eckhart Tolle talks about this in some of his books. When you see two ducks fighting, one of the ducks will shake themselves off afterward. It's because that energy is in your body, and if you don't release that energy from your body, it will become trapped and stored in your body. So he proved with research with mice that the mice that he allowed to shake after the traumatic experience of having their whisker cut off would have no negative health effects over long periods of time. The ones that he held and wouldn't let shake all got cancer and died, because the trauma is trapped in their body. So when you experience a traumatic event and you feel like shaky and jittery afterward, or you experience conflict and you're shaky and jittery afterward, if you don't shake, if you don't get that energy out of your body that energy will become trapped in your body mind. Because your body mind, to me, your body mind and your conscious mind are entirely two different things. You know, it's like, do you think about digesting food? No, not really, because it's your body mind that's taking care of these things. So your body mind, and you see that a lot in people who are really conflicted about things. Like their body mind will have a desire, but their physical mind will be like, no, I don't want to do this. So it creates this conflict. So when you have that conflict in your body, you have to do something about it. You have to get rid of it, or it'll become stored there. It'll become trapped there. So many people, that's what can happen when you freeze. Is if you freeze and you don't release that energy, eventually it will manifest in a disease. Because ultimately a disease is a clog in your energy field, is my understanding. So when you create these clogs of trauma or whatever the case may be, then you have to clear them. Otherwise, the energy will not continue to flow. You'll get backed up energy. And since energy, in my opinion, basically is water, if you have stagnant energy, you have stagnant water. What grows in stagnant water? And who can survive drinking stagnant water? Not a lot of people, because there's a lot of things there that are designed to break things down because it's stagnant. It's a lower vibration. That's what fungus is. You know, if you have a fungal infection, it is a lower vibration that is there to help clean up the world, because then if most people who have fungal infections are not living in attunement with nature. So nature says, oh, this isn't working, so I'm going to clean this up, because that's what nature does. Because why would she allow something to sit around that isn't serving? She's going to clean it up. So it's all part of that whole process.
It's the subconscious and the conscious, isn't it? It's the subconscious, the automatic, the things that go on anyway, the breathing.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes from Paul Chek, who I know you're familiar with, Sandra.
Yes,
one of my favorite Paul Chek quotes is, "If you think you're in control of your body, stop breathing. Now ask yourself who's breathing. Now ask yourself who's breathing through you."
Yeah. And the thing is with trauma stored in the body is, if you don't release it, if you don't process that out, then later on you will get more and more triggers, and the trauma gets bigger and bigger, and it gets harder and harder to deal with, and then you end up with a very stressed person that's probably got a very low self-esteem, believing they're worthless and they're useless, and actually there's nothing wrong with them. They just need to heal.
Yeah, the more pain you accumulate, the more pain it will stimulate in other people. Anger stimulates anger in other people. If you're carrying around a pain body that's full of anger, you will run into more angry people.
Oh, definitely.
You will be
definitely. Attract like, yeah.
Oh, totally. And
like,
then
attract like, hurt people, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Dara says, what you focus on grows. So if you have negativity within yourself, you'll radiate that out, and that's what you'll get back, and that's what people don't always get. And the whole thing of recurring illnesses as well is this metaphor in that. Got a recurring shoulder problem, for example. One of the things is, well, stop doing something that keeps making recur, but also that refers to something that illness also is a echo of a message of information. So the spiritual side, or all of the Shen side, as we call in Taoism, is that what's the Shen of that? Is that there'll be a Qi of it, a Jing of it, and a Shen of it. So the Qi is the physical side to that injury. The Jing is the emotional side to that injury, and the Shen is the spiritual side to that injury. So that means, in essence, there's obviously you're doing something physically that results in an injury, but emotionally, everything technically has an emotional side. So let's say, for example, if you have lower back problem, a lower back problem can be the spine, but it also can be related to the kidneys. If it's the kidneys are in the 5 elements in the Barefoot Doctor, in the Chinese medicine side, which is part of the Barefoot Doctor, and the 5 elemental side. Kidneys relate to water, which also relate to worry. So you can hold worry and tension into your kidneys. It doesn't mean you're dying, but it can mean that your body is over processing in the kidneys. But it could also mean, because your kidneys also process if you've been on a drinking binge, or you're drinking of teas and coffees or Diet Cokes, and you're drinking too much, it could be that your body's over processing, and hence why it could be, if it feels very much in the kidney area, it could be a kidney issue. So the whole point of the Qi, Jing and Shen of it is this fact of could be a physical factor, or is a physical factor, could be an emotional factor, i.e. you worry too much, there's a lot of stress in life, and there's a metaphorical factor to it. So in the holistic approach, or the Taoist approach, is you don't just ask. A lot of Western doctors will simply ask, where does it hurt? And Fred very much will say, there's a whole thing of most pain tends to be referred pain. So therefore, it's not actually coming from where you think it's coming from. And especially when you start talking about the back is such an interesting thing because the spine itself is almost like a guitar string. You can pluck the guitar anywhere and it will vibrate through the whole body. And this is the thing. So you can say, it's in my top shoulders. Well, it's coming from the top. It doesn't mean it's from the top. And the same in the body. I do this little top of their shoulder, and I can press in one point and you'll make your fingers tingle. I press in another point and I'll make your toes tingle. And it's all because of it's the acupressure point in one way. It's an actual muscle set that can actually revert all the way down the spine to the feet in another way. And then you can also say, like we were saying about zone therapy, of reflexology, you can also relate, this by pressing on the shoulder, that actually relates to the zone in the feet. So it will affect, it will be the middle two toes. So there's all these different sort of information, but everything reflects to everything else. So you can find it, you can seek ways of seeking. It doesn't just mean, if you're hurting, it's not just pain. Everything like the whole thing of referred pain, everything means something and referred to something else. So when it comes back, it's coming back for a reason. Quite simply, because you haven't figured out what's bloody wrong yet. But, so it's working through that and going, not just the Western approach, or at least in England, the Western approach, it hurts, take an aspirin, take this, take that. That's like me. That's like a fire alarm going off and me getting an axe, chopping the cable to the phone. It's stopped. And the house is that you don't stop the problem. All you're doing is stopping the signal to the problem. Because pain is just signaling to you something is wrong in one format or another, and you have to listen. That's the Eastern approach, that's the old approach, the ancient way. Pain is there to tell you, it's a teacher.
You learn from it. I was lucky enough earlier this year to be invited along to do a transformational breath therapy session. And while we were talking earlier, I think Ethan mentioned that helps to get rid of the pain. And one of the things that they did, they taught you how to do breathing in your nose and out your mouth, almost like circular breathing. And they would come around and press on parts of the body. And pressed on part of me, and I burst into tears. I had no idea what it was, but one of the things we had to do was have a tantrum like a baby, stamp and shout and scream, because she said that whatever that is stored and it needs to go. And although it's quite emotional at the time, afterwards you just feel so much better. I still got no idea what I released, but I know I felt a lot better, and I managed a lot better afterwards. But it was just an opportunity that came up to come along and try this, see if you like it. It's probably not something that I'm going to do over and over again, but I'm never one to pass up an opportunity of trying something new. So it is fascinating that the shaking is interesting, because that kind of relates to lots of other things as well.
Yeah, there's a whole set of both Shaolin and Taoist Qigong sets with shaking, and even in the for a lot of people in Baduan Jin, brocade. The cat. Sorry, I got distracted. I heard Fred say Isis. That's his pussycat, one of his pussycats. The 8-piece brocade, which means it's a set, but in China it's sort of like a national qigong. So depending where you are in China, there are actually different exercises to the 8-piece brocade. But one of them is called Shake the Body to Ward Off Illness, or Ride the Wild Horse Bareback, which I've done. Which is fun, especially when you fall off. But anyway, so this shaking is very much about releasing what Chinese called negative energy, and it's sort of like it's a water version. There's in Qigong and Taoism, there's a water style and a fire style, two main styles. American has a lot of fire style, which is dynamic tension breathing, so you squashing down on certain parts of the body. And the water, the shaking is their version of that, where you shake out the tension from the body, and you use tendon power more than this shaking of the body to release the char, but it also can activate what's called Farjing, which is explosive power. So it's very much the shaking on the healing side. This Farjing, so the healing version of Farjing is this shaking where you can shake out the tension within the muscles and the tendons, especially, is where it resides, very much in the tendons and the muscles. Hence why yoga and or Pilates and or Taoist yoga is also a version called Neigong, which is like a Taoist Qigong. A Qigong yoga, and it's very much about stretching the tendons, because the philosophy is that a lot of the deep-seated energy resides into the tendons. The negative energy is stored into the tendons themselves, where a lot of the upper emotions are stored in the muscles, but it's more the physical energy is also stored in the muscle, so physically stored in the muscles, and it's the deep emotional tensions tend to affect and be stored in the tendons. So shaking the body releases it from the core, so not just releasing it from the muscles, but releasing all the way through to the tendon and the bones itself. So, but hey, what do I know? Somebody else.
No, yeah, shaking the body, yes, very important with the shaking body. The reason, you're looking at interactions work both ways with people. Now, for instance, I've had a patient who was excessively violent, excessively aggressive, and through correction of one bone in his back, changed that. Now, this is where blood supply is actually affecting distribution of hormonal signals and other signals throughout the body, and affecting that flow. Again, as with flow of energy, it will affect what the result is. Shaking the body increases small vascular blood supply, which of course is where the body's basic system works from.
Indeed.
More. Tell me more, Fred.
Yeah. But again, it works both ways. In the same way that you can use energy to affect the body, you can use bits of the body to affect the energy flow through people. Now, the chemical effect is very important. You distribute chemical signals via a lymphatic system, as well as through the blood supply. Nerve entrapment causing muscular spasm causes what's termed a lymphatic blockade. Now, this is particularly problematic in ladies due to the fact that females' bodies are far more hormone dependent than the male body. But just through that, I've had patients, very, very common with patients, for instance, with bad necks, upper cervical, upper thoracic back problems. You correct the back problem, they cry. And this happens quite a lot. It releases because the chemical effect caused through emotional stress, through emotional tension. And that can be released both physically and energetically. Combining the two works really well.
Yeah,
Go on, anything.
Oh, I was gonna say I've always found that anytime you can employ the multiple dimensions of something, it always works better. You know, like applying exercise as a form of medicine and using exercise, knowing the repetitions that you want to get the desired effect that you want, but also knowing how that affects the stress, the hormone cycle, all of that stuff, like circadian cycles or the food that you eat and all of that sort of stuff. So knowing that this specific food will have this specific effect on your body and taking that into account when you're using it. So for me, understanding, like what's happening energetically, what's happening physically, what's happening hormonally, and taking all those into account and using it in that way, I find to be an extremely effective and powerful form of healing. Because to me, when you can understand the totality of the thing, and you're not by around 10:30 because it's good for me, but for me, my whole world was changed when I saw a diagram of your hormonal patterns and how your natural hormonal patterns flow according to your sleep-wake cycle. Or I had heard for years that you shouldn't drink water a half hour before you ate. And I never took it seriously. But then someone explained to me that it has to do with diluting your stomach acid. And so it went from an abstract theory for me of something that I kind of was like, I know I'm supposed to do that, but I'm not going to do it. To now it's something that I have a better understanding of. So I actually try and employ it more because I have the wholeness of that understanding of it's not just this abstract concept for me anymore. It's been brought into something that I can relate to of like, oh, so, taking because I think it's something that we have a problem with being raised in a Western society is that quote unquote woo-woo, the woo-woo-ness of things or the woo-woo science, when we can understand how the woo-woo is affecting us on a scientific level, then to me, we can have the full understanding of it. At least this has been my experience with learning. I can have the full experience of it, and then it makes so much more sense. And it's so much easier for me to assimilate and implement knowing those things. And like one of the best things I ever did for drinking more water was I read a book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And it's a very fantastic scientific book about all of the processes in your body and how they're affected by proper hydration and dehydration and things like that. And it was more efficient than anyone ever could have been. Like, you should drink more water. I read that book and I was like, holy fuck, I need to drink a bunch of water. It's one of those books that as you're reading it, you're drinking a glass of water the whole time. Drinking your water. Chris, you got something to say? I see it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like when you're born, you need this book that comes with your body that says, you have this happen, do this. You have this happen, do that. It's just the human body is so complex, and everyone is so unique as well. That
we've all got a different book.
Yes, exactly.
Totally agree.
Very, 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 very quickly, I just want to say, I know that Baz is listening while driving home. He's listening as an audio. So, hi Baz, how you doing, brother? Also, Nikki Eternal, she's watching on YouTube. So, Nikki, thank you very much. Much love.
Hello, Nikki.
Nikki Eternal, I was aka Sydney. And you're getting the bunny gore. Was it? I always forget. What's it called?
The Fearsome Bunny Goyle. He has his own Facebook page.
Bunny Goyle. I was right. But this is what I always found interesting. Is this whole point is that there's all this different. This is why in Taoism you should learn lots and lots and lots of different stuff and not just focus on one set. The Japanese way tends to be you learn one thing and you master that one thing. The Taoism tends to be that learning more things you can add to your system, the better. And there's this interesting thing. I always found it interesting in the West is this dismissal thing of, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. And it's this whole thing about like being a specialist. But the problem with being a specialist is that if you're a specialist, that means you're only focused. Yes, you're great on that one thing, But if something, you know, you can't help. The whole point of is that everybody is different. So therefore, the more you can know these other things, or at least be able to, like the thing with me, no, I don't know everything, but I know enough to know to say to somebody, you need to go and see, for me, so for example, you need to go and see Fred. Fred will help you out on this. He's really good. And Fred does it the same. Fred goes, Paul, and that's why me and Fred, we've actually created Click Chi. We take the best of both our strengths and I've put them together to create, you know, another system. And the whole point is that you know, knowing other knowledge helps you figure it out. And that's what I think for me is there's a few things I think people should learn at school, not just the things they learn. One of them is first aid, is that because I've seen too many times where somebody has died, and just a simple bit of knowing about the airway or a simple little thing could have saved that person's life. And there's all these people standing around, but nobody knew just to do a simple thing. Another thing, food and nutrition. But when I talk about food and nutrition, I talk about actually how the body actually processes food, what it actually does, not just the nutrient side, but how, like, people think that, you know, they don't understand how lemon water can increase the alkaline in your body, because they go, oh, but lemon's acidic. But what your body does, it creates, what your body does is whatever you digest, it will, the yin, the yang, it will give the opposite to neutralize it. So if you're eating something very acidic, your body creates more bile, more alkaline to neutralize the body. So when you drink lemon water, the lemon is giving you the vitamin C, so your body is drawing the natural vitamin C, and your body can never store and vitamin C, it disperses, so it always needs.
That's why you can't overdose them.
Exactly. Yeah, one of the only vitamins that you can't overdose on. But also what happens with lemon water, it actually increases natural alkaline in your body. So rather, because people think you have to add alkaline to your body, but your body naturally produces it, and lemon water increases the alkaline within the body. So especially people who love very, very sweet things, and this is the thing also with Taoism as well, not necessarily replace but add to create balance. So if you love sugary drinks, you should, as much as possible, be also having, saying, just like lemon or hot, and that will, because of a slice of lemon or a couple of slices of lemon in hot water, will actually increase the alkaline, but you're also activating the citrus oils that are naturally within the zest of the lemon, which also helps the immune system as well. So it's learning how your body truly works. And that's why I think if people actually understood basic, simple things, and they understood, and I'm not saying that means you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, but if you knew, okay, for me, spending 15 years being a baker resulted with, I've got a high intolerance to yeast. So if I eat too much bread, I know I'm going to suffer within 2 days of IBS. But there are ways around it. I can counter that. And it's all about, for me, is countering. It's learning that. And I know Ethan is very much into that side of, he understands how his body, he listens to his body, and he understands his body enough. And I know Fred as well is because of Fred.
You've got stuck.
He needs a new computer.
Oh dear.
It isn't naughty because you use your butt back. It's when people do stuff and go,
Boggy, rewind.
You got all broke up there.
Okay. Basically, I was saying about about food, understanding food enough that what food does what to your body, not what it does generally, but if there's something, if you're getting upset tummies or getting headaches, figure out what is it that's creating that. Are you waking up like that? Then it could be your bed or your pillows. Are you eating something that's doing that? Then it's the food. It's learning to be your own seafood, learning to figure things out for yourself rather than having to always rely on other people. So, like I said, with Ethan, and I know with myself, and also with Fred, is that because of our body makeups, we know that certain things will trigger stuff. But for me, I also know how to counter it. I know how, if I really fancy like a bit of fried toast or fried bread, not toast, fried bread, then I know how to counter that. So it will actually, fried bread, because it's saturated a bit more with fat, it will actually neutralize more of the yeast. So the yeast is less likely to react in my stomach by having it fried. If I have a bit of toast, it's more likely to cause and you sort of things like that. Learn about yourself. Learn what your body likes and dislikes, and figure it out. That's what you're here for. Learn stuff.
Totally.
Anyway.
I wanted to throw something out about vitamin C. Your body, when your body is stressed, this is something else about learning about the body, is like when you learn that when you're stressed, your body burns through 10 times the amount of vitamin C that it usually does. So for me, like I have a lot of tattoos, so I go to get tattooed, and my body will start to, in the past, my body would start to go into shock. And I learned that, and it's a tattooer's trick that they always keep candy around. I don't eat candy. So now I take like oranges or apples. I try to usually take oranges and coconut oil because it will give me the carbohydrates that I need to help fix my blood sugar while it's crashing. My body's in a state of stress, so it'll give me extra vitamin C. And I just love eating lots of fat because fat makes me feel better. So it's about finding the things that your body needs in a day-to-day, even if you can, a moment-by-moment thing. Like if you're doing a lot of more physical labor, your body runs off carbohydrates. Eat an extra banana. If you have your normal meal, if you know you're going to be doing a heavy day of work outside, eat an extra banana. You'll need the extra energy because your body will burn through the calories. If you know you're going to be sitting on your ass at home all day, don't eat extra calories because you're not necessarily going to need the energy. Or, and then it gets into other things of like people who sit around a lot but are thinking. You can use up to like, I think it's 80 or 90% of your blood sugar can be used in thinking. So that's why you see so many people who spend a lot of time on computers gaining a lot of weight, is because they're using all their blood sugar. But their body isn't actually burning up the calories that they got from their food. So then they have to eat more food to bring up their blood sugar again because their blood sugar is dropping. And it turns into this perpetual cycle where it doesn't matter. This is one of the things that I've learned about calories. Counting calories on a theory kind of doesn't work because there's too many variables. You're using a set mathematical system when, depending on your digestion, it's like the greatest example that I can give is a Paul Chek example where someone was asking him, and it all comes down to your body's ability to assimilate. You can, a Zen Taoist master can live off half the amount of food that somebody else is living off of because their digestional tract is functioning at such a higher level that they're able to metabolize their food completely different. Whereas someone whose digestional system is crap is going to need way more food just to be able to get the same nutrition out of it. So counting calories really doesn't work, but there is something about calories, and that is if you eat too many calories, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. If you eat too many calories, your body will begin to put on weight because you're just overloading your system. Now, learning about that, fat calories, how fat has significantly more calories in it than protein does, or carbohydrates and things like that. And another good one for me was when I became really good friends with the diabetic, and I started learning things about how fiber actually affects, the amount of fiber actually affects your body's need to, your pancreas's need to create insulin in the food that you eat. So higher fiber, if you eat foods that are higher fiber, it won't spike your blood sugar as much. So all of those things, if you can try and assimilate them and form a cohesive a cohesive view of the world and of your life, then it will completely change your ability to interact with the world, to interact with life, and to interact with yourself, which ultimately I found through my experience is when I used to eat junk food and I felt like shit all the time. And it was so much harder for me to be compassionate, for me to be loving, for me to be open when I felt like shit all the time. It's like the easiest example for anyone who has not had this experience. Go get a really nasty hangover and then go and try and be compassionate and loving and peaceful to the people around you. You're going to have a lot harder time than if you are like, have hydrated yourself all day and ate food all day and you're feeling good. It's going to be a lot easier than if you're sitting there miserable and hungover. So you can take that. You can take that with food too. You know, if you eat junk food all the time, if you eat crappy food all the time, you're going to have a food hangover. I've had food hangovers, sugar hangovers. Sugar hangovers are some of the worst the non-alcoholic hangovers I've had. I had a fungal infection, so I get fungal hangovers and sugar hangovers, and those are a couple of the worst hangovers from food I've ever had. Those things are wicked, especially like if you get a fungal infection. Like I had like an internal fungal infection, and it gets pretty out of control, like mine was. You'll get headaches from all the mycotoxins. You get all sorts of nasty problems. And then if your blood starts pumping faster, then it's moving all those poisons around in your body, and you feel even more terrible. When I used to work out, I'd work out with my fungal infection, and halfway through my workout, I just wanted to die because I felt so awful because of all the mycotoxins from the fungus. So, you know, if you can bring all knowledge into as much of a cohesive whole as you possibly can, then you can try and apply it. Because, you know, ultimately the thing about Taoism is people, one of the things I see a lot of is people say, oh, you know, live in the moment and live in the now. And so that applies to everything. You need to be living your body. You need to be aware of your body's needs in the now. You need to be aware of your body's micronutrients needs in the now. So are you stressed? 3 ones, yeah.
3 ones. But it's not just, you know, when the now. Well, firstly, the now keeps changing. Now. You know.
What about now? Now.
Yeah. Now. Oh, we go. Now. But then it's also the fact it's the physical now. So, you know, if the body doesn't feel vibrant, then, you know, this is the difference with the Taoism is if your body doesn't feel vibrant, you don't go, oh my God, I don't feel, do something about it. Make it vibrant. Don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive. So it's the whole thing, you know, the whole point of that is you turn it to the side and then it's a wave. It's a balance of up and down, and you're looking for you eventually, rather than want big waves like this, you want almost a straight line. But it won't be a straight line, it'll be little ups and downs because you're constantly looking to balance the yin and the yang. And it's finding that path, you know, the way means the balance. So on that is you balance the body, you balance the mind, you balance the spirit, the 3 ones. It's the seeking of all 3. And so you know, it's this whole, and, you know, like we're saying about hangovers, you know, it is Taoistically, you know, if you've got a hangover, that means you've let it go too far. It's like, you know, the shore, you know, if you get stuck on the island because you missed the tides, so you have to do timing. So it's the whole point of, you know, the whole point of, like, there are ways to stop yourself, apart from not drinking. Additional ways that you can, you know, drink more water and do certain things to hydrate yourself more before you go to bed, and there's less likely to get that kicking hangover at the end of it. Eat certain foods, and the same thing. So there's, you know, it's seeking the in your mind, body, and spirit, both the physical side, the emotional side, and the spiritual side. Right, it is 10:06. So, Sandra, have you got any ending words, follow-up, finishing words?
Any pending words? I would say for anyone that's feeling a bit out of sorts, that reflexology is a very good idea, provided you haven't got a problem with your foot. Even if you have, you hands and legs. No, it's Yeah, just basically look after yourselves. Whatever it is that's going to make you feel better, go and do it. Go and invest in yourself. Invest in your own well-being, and whether that be through reflexology, massage, swimming, music, dance, whatever it is, transformational breath. Go and do it. Go and look after yourself, because if you're no good, then nobody else around you is going to be either. So yeah.
If you're too sick to take care of yourself, then you can't possibly hope to help take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
Which is the Western world as we know it in a nutshell. So.
Yes. So thank you for having me again. That's my other thing. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah,
I've spoken. If Chris, have you got anything to say at the end?
Not really. Just thank you very much for coming back again and explaining those points on the massage and the reflexology. That was very helpful. And that's it, really.
Okay.
Fred, any final words?
I'd also like to say thank you very much for inviting me. And yeah, at the end of the day, I started healing people when I was about 9 years old. I've spent my entire life trying to learn ways to be able to heal and help my patients. And I'm still learning. And I always will.
That's the point.
Yeah. Life lesson.
Even, I think that a good end, even for a healer, you're always learning. And, that's the point. Learn to heal yourself and find your own way, find your own Tao. So, for the show, thank you very much for the viewers. We've been flowing in and out. If Baz is still listening, drive safe, my brother. Take care. Nikki, hope you enjoyed the show. And whoever else has been watching, love, Chi and Shen, from myself, from Sandra, from Fred. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
See you next week. Next week we have Jamie and his partner, which unfortunately I've forgotten her name. Please forgive me. Sorry, Jamie. And it'll be about sacred relationships, sacred partnerships. So until next week, take care.
Oh, that sounds
now.
interesting.
Bye.
Love,
Bye.
Chi and Shen. See you for both.
So,
Bye.
Bye.